we've got Dean Evason behind the bench, calling the shots. Certainly Minnesota Wild fans remember the results he was able to get there. Dano, when you first saw this, what was your immediate reaction?
Well, Dean Evason, I played junior hockey with him. I go way back, but he's just a fiery guy. Played against the National Hockey League, had success with Minnesota in 3 years as head coach. I mean, a lot of success in making the playoffs. Never mind how they did in the playoffs. It's about finding some sustainability and getting Columbus back to prominence, getting back to the playoffs. They haven't made it in a while, and there's been some question marks certainly in Columbus. Tough year last year, injuries part of it. Didn't get the coaching right last season, in my estimation, or who they picked. I know there was some turmoil from the start with Babcock, who then was hired, then never made it to game one of the season. So there was a lot of uncertainties with the Columbus Blue Jackets. Dean Evason is a guy that's going to bring fire, passion, get the most out of his guys. I really believe it, and I think it's a good hire for the Blue Jackets.
4 trips to the Stanley Cup playoffs. I've heard you say before, it's about getting in. He was able to get them in with the Wild on a consistent basis.
He was. I mean, and that's something Columbus in what I consider kind of a wide open metropolitan division where there's some uncertainties along the way. Yeah, they didn't have a good year last year. Injuries was part of it for Columbus, like a lot of teams. But they've got to find some stability, some continuity, and some belief that we're a lot better than we showed last season, for sure. And I think that's going to be the toughest task for Coach Dean Evason. But again, you mentioned the success he had in Minnesota as far as being a playoff team, and I think he's the right choice. I think he's a guy that can really get a lot out of Columbus and make them much better anyway than they were last season.
They are a passionate fan base, fire the cannon, and they're thrilled with who is going to be calling their games on television. Our good friend Steve Mears joins us, and we're going to talk about the team first, but we will get to your hiring as the TV play-by-play man. We think about the great moments that you had on air for us here with USA Hockey, on and on. Let's start with the Jackets. This head coach hire, what's the reaction that you're getting from Blue Jackets fans?
Tony, I think it's a lot of excitement with the fifth line in Columbus. Just bringing in a coach, and Don Waddell said this right from the start, the head coach had to have some NHL experience. And as you guys illustrated, Dean Evason certainly brings that. A couple of characteristics that really stand out for me, and Dano touched on it. Fiery guy, the intensity. You see it on his face. He brings an edge behind the bench. And I think in today's game, with today's player, you have to have a coach that has some presence back there. Think about Rick Tocchet, John Tortorella, Peter Laviolette. They bring an edge to fire. And Dean Evason definitely brings that. And the other thing that stands out is that second job for an NHL head coach. There are a lot of examples recently of coaches who started off somewhere, had an okay stint to begin as a head coach in the league, and then a ton of success in their second stop. They take what they learned, the good, the bad, and applied it to their second stop. And that, whether you talk about Craig Berube in St. Louis or Mike Sullivan, I think Dean Evason has a chance to do that. Take what he learned, apply it from his time in Minnesota, and bring that to Columbus. And guys, how ironic, the Blue Jackets opening game of this upcoming season will be in Minnesota, October 10th.
Yeah.
So we already have our big storyline on opening night for the Jackets.
That's fantastic, Mersey. I mean, what a game that will be, and it'll mean something to Dean Evason. Game one as his tenure as coach of the Columbus Blue Jackets. You bring 2 new guys at the top. Don Waddell, who I know very well and really like, and I think he's going to do a terrific job, and also has a ton of experience that you mentioned. But you mentioned the fire of Dean Evason. I mean, what do you think for him to get the most out of this team? I mean, it's been kind of topsy-turvy. I know injuries, whatever it may be, caused some of the problems last season. But having said that, they need accountability, don't they? And I think these 2 guys and this change that the Columbus Blue Jackets have made with a general manager and head coach could bring some of that accountability they need to show to get back to being a competitive team, a playoff team.
That's so true, Dano. I think the injuries have unfortunately been a big part of the narrative with the Jackets. Last 2 years, actually, they've been decimated by injuries. So the first thing coming into this season, they need to be healthy. And then with Don Waddell bringing his experience, Dean Evason as well. For Evason, I think bring the characteristics that he brought as a player. He was a tough player, hardworking, good penalty killer, and just a hard worker. I think the Blue Jackets have the potential to be one of the hardest working teams in the NHL. And that experience that they haven't had in the last couple of coaches, they haven't had an experienced head coach since John Tortorella. So Dean Evason is going to bring that all the years in Minnesota, all the years as an assistant coach with the Washington Capitals. And those same characteristics, the work ethic, penalty killing. She was a great penalty killer. You can bring that. Jackets certainly have to be better at that this upcoming season. And I keep going back to last year. Around this time last year, nobody was thinking the Philadelphia Flyers would be even close to the playoff discussion. They almost made it. Winnipeg Jets, kind of the same thing. Of course, they had tremendous goaltending, but you bring structure, you bring a work ethic and an ability to defend, and you can shock the world. And I think a lot of people were surprised at the season the Philadelphia Flyers had. And the same thing with the Winnipeg Jets. And a lot of that was based on coaching and work ethic. The
presence behind the bench, as you pointed out, we think of Torts right away. It's certainly in that market, too, the incredible upset that group pulled over the Tampa Bay Lightning. They had the best regular season ever, and they were swept. The guy in net, Sergei Bobrovsky, turned out to be really good a few years later in the Cup final. But I digress. What Blue Jackets fans are getting in you is someone that not only knows today's NHL, but as you pointed out, you went back to Dean Evason as a player. You love this game as much as anyone I've ever been around. When you got this job, what was your first thought?
Oh, Tony, it's just such a dream. I've always had a fondness for Columbus. I was thinking that Columbus, Ohio is probably the city that I've been to the most as far as road trips are concerned, between preseason, regular season, the draft, the All-Star game with NHL Network. We had a great time there back in 2015. And then going to college at Bowling Green, so many road trips down there, Falcons, Buckeyes, hockey. And I've always loved it. And my family's excited to be there in Columbus. We're going to be moving in another month or so. And you guys talked about it. Vibrant fan base, vibrant city. They totally follow and are dedicated to this team on a nightly basis. You know, the last couple of years have been pretty tough. There's the cannon being fired. I mean, there's so much to love. And then to see the suburbs and how beautiful they are now and where we wanted to live and just the excitement in the city. I know I sound like the president of the Chamber of Commerce, but I'm just thrilled. It's a special place. It's like family. They've welcomed me with open arms. I can't wait to get going. Tony, I know you love all things red, white, and blue. I mean, you can come on board maybe on the Jackets bandwagon now.
You know it. I love you. Mersey's always authentic.
Mersey, I have jumped with that cannon on numerous occasions. I'm curious to see if you're going to get surprised every once in a while. I finally, last year, I think it was the first year I went twice and successfully did not flinch. But the first few years, forget it. I constantly jumped. But, yeah, you're right. It's a great atmosphere there. And you got big shoes to fill. I mean, Jeff Rimmer leaves. He was a great guy.
Legend.
Great announcer there. But now you get to step right in and kind of follow his footsteps. I want to give him a shout out because I always engaged with him as well. But they couldn't have picked a better guy to step right in and you know, get the fans and fired up about, you know, the upcoming season than you, Mersey.
Thank you so much, Dan. It was always great working with you. And speaking of Jeff, I talked to him right away when the announcement came out. He's been so unbelievably supportive with everything, and moving, getting to know the city, getting to know the organization, the people in the organization. And you said it, yeah, 20 years, a legend there in Columbus, big shoes to fill, but I'm honored to take the torch from him. And we're going to have a lot of fun working with Jody Shelley. We're going to have a great time and bring some of that passion, Tony, that you mentioned that I have for the game and that I have for Columbus, going back to their first year when I was a student at Bowling Green. Just can't wait to get going. I'm the guy who's like wishing tomorrow was opening night. I can't wait to get going. Got some time to go. But obviously, we got some huge news here today with the hiring of Dean Evason. So just makes me more excited for opening night.
Earlier, Mersey mentioned his family. We have to bring this to the screen. His son is adorable. Look at that. Oh, my goodness. That's such a great picture, Mersey. When you buy a picture frame in the store, they have that picture in it. That's how cute your son is. How proud are you, Papa?
This guy Carter, he's getting more airtime on NHL Network than some NHL players, I think. This is unbelievable.
It's true.
And I do thank you for that, and I'm sure he will someday down the road. But I meant it when I said it, when I posted it on social media, that he's just 13 months old. He's not going to have any recollection of living in Western Pennsylvania. Like, he's going to be a Blue Jackets fan pretty much from day one for his entire hockey life. He will be a Blue Jackets fan and just a proud Columbus resident, as I will be too. And probably get on the ice for the first time there at one of the rinks in Columbus. So I can't wait. But we made sure we got him a jersey right away, long before I had this shirt and long before anything else. We got him his own jersey, and he will be wearing that at the home opener and with a lot of pride. So yeah, we're all in. We can't wait to get over there and get going, get to know some of the fans and the people in the organization. Because so far, it's just been first class all the way.
We are so happy for you, and we are thrilled that you have this opportunity. Those fans are very fortunate. Thanks for joining us.